Sometimes you walk through an old cemetery and see a simple soldier's stone, and you might just walk right by. But the life this one marks, wow, it's anything but simple. It's a story that literally spans the entire birth of the United States. So today, let's uncover the forgotten life of one of America's very first veterans, a man named Isaac Buck. So, our whole journey into the past really kicks off with this one question. You see this marker? It tells you he was a soldier in the Revolutionary War, right? But believe me, that stone, it tells only a tiny, tiny fraction of his story.
And this is where it gets really interesting. The official record of his death, it lays out this incredible contradiction that really defined his entire life. On one hand, you have revolutionary pensioner, a celebrated patriot, a guy who fought to create a whole new nation. And on the other hand, illegitimate, a social stigma that haunted him from birth right up until his death. Okay, so to really get who Isaac Buck was, we've got to go all the way back, right back to his beginning. And let me tell you, it was far from ordinary for the time. It really set the stage for a life that was just full of struggle, but also incredible resilience. I mean, look at this. It's right there, in black and white, in the official town records. He was born to an unmarried woman, Mary Richards, and the record says he was reputed by her to be a son of Isaac Buck. That one line immediately set him apart. See, back in the 18th century, that label, it wasn't just some detail on a piece of paper. It was a social brand that could shape your entire future. Then, when he's 17, his life takes this big turn. His mother marries a widower, and suddenly Isaac is part of this new blended family. And this move, it's a huge deal, because it brought him under the same roof as a young woman named Martha, Patty, as she was called, his new stepsister. And she would become, without a doubt, the most important person in his entire life. So right as his family life is getting sorted out, something else is brewing. Revolution. It's sweeping across the colonies. And Isaac, who's barely 18 years old, he doesn't hesitate for a second. He chooses a path of service that's going to define his youth and commit him, body and soul, to the cause of American independence. And get this, he wasn't just some regular infantryman. For a while, he had this super specialized and incredibly dangerous job, a matros. So what's a matros? It means you're right there in the thick of it, working the heavy artillery cannons. We're talking loading, firing, cleaning these massive guns. It was loud, chaotic, and just unbelievably perilous work. All right, let's really look at his service record here, because it's remarkable. This was not a short-term gig. He didn't just sign up for a year and go home. Nope. He was in it for the long haul. This timeline shows a commitment that spans almost 8 full years, from the very first shots in 75 right through to the very end when the Army disbands at West Point in 83. Just incredible. But, a soldier's life isn't all about battlefields and cannons. In the middle of this long, grinding war, Isaac took this really important step to build a personal life, a life beyond the Army. He decided to marry that young woman he'd grown up with. Yep, on May 18th, 1780, he married his stepsister, Martha Patty Phillips. And this marriage, it really became the bedrock of his life. It was this lasting partnership, and it created the family and that sense of belonging that you just know he must have been yearning for after such a tough start. And boy, did they create a family. How many kids do you think they had? 9. 9 children. Can you just imagine that? A bustling, noisy household? A whole new generation of Americans being raised by a man who was out there fighting to create the very country they were all going to inherit. But here's the heartbreaking part. The peace that he fought so hard for, it didn't bring him prosperity. Not at all. In fact, his later years reveal this really poignant and difficult story of hardship. And sadly, that was the reality for so many veterans who sacrificed everything for the revolution. So, flash forward to 1818. Isaac is now 60 years old, and he's applying for a Revolutionary War pension, and his application is it's tough to read. He states that his discharge papers were lost from my pocket many years since. He had so little to show for his years of sacrifice, he didn't even have the piece of paper to prove it. Now, that was a common problem, for sure, but it just speaks to a life of constant struggle. And this number just says it all. As part of that pension file in 1820, Isaac had to list every single thing he owned in the world. The total value of all his worldly possessions? $30.25. That's it. Let's actually look at the inventory. This list really drives home just how poor he was. I mean, we're talking 1 cow, a clock, 1 table, 3 old chairs, a shovel and tongs, an old plow, some basic plates and forks. This was the material wealth of a man who gave 8 years of his life to create a nation. It's just staggering. And his own words from that pension file, they paint a devastating picture. He says he is wholly unable to labor and never expects to perform much labor hereafter. His body was just broken. After a lifetime of hard work and service, he was a farmer who couldn't farm anymore. Think about that irony. A man who thought for independence was now completely dependent on a government pension just to survive. So this brings up a huge question, right? How do you measure the worth of a life like Isaac's? Clearly, it wasn't in dollars and cents. His real legacy, his true value, it lies somewhere else entirely. Isaac Buck died on February 7th, 1846. He lived to the remarkable age of 88, but his final years were spent as a widower. And in one last, really sad twist, the final resting place of his wife, Martha, his partner for so many decades, it's unknown. It's just been lost to time. And this right here really shows you the two inheritances he left behind. On one side, material inheritance, absolutely nothing. He and Martha left no property, no probate records, zip. But on the other side, his living legacy, 9 children, dozens of grandchildren, and now countless descendants spread all across the nation he helped build. When you step back, his life was just a series of these incredible contrasts. Step 1, he's born and stigmatized as illegitimate. Step 2, he becomes an honored soldier of the Revolution. Step 3, he lives out his old age in poverty as a pensioner. And finally, Step 4, he's remembered on his gravestone for his service, not for the station he was born into. What a journey. Just think about the sheer amount of history this one man lived through. He was born a British subject in the colonies. He spent 8 years of his life fighting to create a brand new country, and then he got to live in that country, the United States of America, for another 62 years. He saw the whole thing happen. And that brings us right back to where we started, his final resting place in that cemetery in Sterling, Massachusetts. It's a simple stone with an inscription just noting his regiment. Later, the Sons of the American Revolution added a commemorative placard, but it's a marker that celebrates the public hero while hiding all the private struggle. And, so poignantly, there's no stone for his wife, Martha. He rests there alone. But maybe this is the most profound part of his whole story. Despite all the poverty, despite all the hardship, Isaac Buck lived to see the young republic he fought for actually succeed. He saw it mature into a growing nation. The country survived. It grew. It thrived. His sacrifice, it meant something. So that leaves us with one last question to chew on. How many other stories like Isaac's are out there, just waiting to be told? His story was almost completely lost, buried in dusty old records and under a simple gravestone. It's just a powerful reminder that it was countless ordinary people with their quiet struggles and their incredible sacrifices who truly built this nation, one life at a time.